This is NPR.
This is 88.5 FM, worldwide at WMNF.org.
WMNF is honored to be nominated in 19 categories in Creative Loafing, Tampa Bay's Best of the Bay Awards, including Best Radio Station, Best Nonprofit, Best Place to Volunteer, and many of your favorite shows and personalities. Voting is open now through August 30th, and you can vote once every day. If you believe in independent journalism, diverse music, and community-powered radio, now's your chance to make your voice heard. Visit WMNF.org, cast your votes for WMNF in all 19 categories, and help us bring these awards home. Vote every day through August 30th, and thank you for keeping independent community radio strong.
Thank you for tuning in to WMNF Radio 88.5 FM. This is a public affairs program called Community Speaks, and I'm your host, Patro Mobili. All eyes on the midterm elections and the war, and some eyes on the Tupac murder trial. My eyes are on the police. Also, in the Mississippi case of Nolan Wells, the NAACP's Office of General Counsel announced it will join the legal team investigating Wells's death. That's good news. Then in Hillsborough County, the only youth detention center will be closed, moving the youth to surrounding counties further away from families and legal representation. Safe and Sound Hillsborough is looking at possible solutions, including transportation assistance for families and working with the courts and other agencies to determine whether some youth could qualify for alternatives to secure detention. Safe and Sound grew out of the Hillsborough County Violence Prevention Collaborative, and also looking globally, the endless war on Iran and why Israel won't stop settler violence in Palestine. Furthermore, the U.S. Department of War is introducing a new course centered on Western civilization and Christianity this fall in schools that operates for military families. So we could talk about all of that here on Community Speaks. Of course, this is my opportunity to talk to you as the week gets off to a new start. And as we head to the polls tomorrow, we're going to talk about what to expect in Hillsborough and in Florida's midterm elections. Civil rights activists, stalwarts, politicians, and academics held a requiem for the Voting Rights Act on its 61st anniversary last week, lamenting and the neutering or the weakening of a law that had propelled African Americans, especially in the South, into choosing their own leaders without fear of violence, murder, or lesser polling place obstacles. The hollowing out of the Voting Rights Act reveals again how too many white Americans have poor notions of equality with black Americans and the steps that they will take to hinder equitable black and Latino representation in Congress and at the state and local levels. So two organizations say they're investing $250,000 to support pro-equality, pro-academic freedom school board candidates this election season because, as you know, the governor of the state of Florida tried to partisanize or make school board elections partisan. So the Equality Florida Political Action Committee and Southern Poverty Law Center Action Fund announced last week that the mass mailing program they will be engaging in aims to help voters identify which candidates are committed to getting politics out of the classroom and to recentering schools away from censorship and back toward student success. That was according to a news release that Equality Florida Political Action Committee and the Southern Poverty Law Center put out. So that's a good effort because, as I said, when the governor tried to make school board races partisan, it gave rise to some of the most backward thinkers, Moms for Liberty being one of them. His time in office, the governor's time in office, has been marked by these culture war issues, like more strictly regulating what books students may read in school and punishing teachers who don't stick to pronouns for students according to their gender assigned at birth, and the Florida Board of Education formally adopting a conservative vision for education in the state. And so when we talk about what's happening with the Department of War, or as we have always known it as the Department of Defense, also engaging in these culture wars and using this military schools they operate to push this agenda, it's cause for concern. This is all done in your name. As I said, this Department of Defense introducing this course that's going to focus on Western civilization and Christianity. And Western civilization courses are planned this fall, and we use a textbook published by Encounter Books, which is a conservative publishing house. Historians and educators who reviewed excerpts of the text told the Associated Press it depicts points throughout history in misleading ways. Not surprising. And the text represents Western civilization and Christianity as one and the same, and cast Islam as a threat to both. That's according to scholars who are aware of what's in these books. We could talk about all of that is being done in your name. You are tuned to Community Speaks here on your community radio station, WMNF 88.5. Of course, next hour we'll get back to the music, but it's the Music Monday. The Blaine Whaling will be coming your way next hour with that. And but first, we're going to get another news update from The Scoop, locally produced right here in-house at WMNF. So we'll get a little smarter in another hour, but during this hour, we're going to continue to talk together. 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. That's the number to call if you want to weigh in on what is happening and what these elections mean. And this is all being done in your name. Florida voters, of course, will select nominees tomorrow to replace term-limited Republican governor and to complete the remainder of Marco Rubio's unexpired U.S. Senate term. The state also will hold its first congressional primary since adopting a redrawn district map designed to boost Republican candidates in November. And so the question is still an open one. Will that work? And the primary for governor could set the direction for both parties in this state. There's a long-standing rivalry between DeSantis and the president, POTUS, and it broadly shapes the Republican contest, while moderate and progressive candidates compete to guide the state's Democrats out of their electoral doldrums. But 11 candidates are competing for the Republican gubernatorial nomination. Of course, one is backed by POTUS. And, we don't have to get too much into detail about that. 6 Democrats are running to succeed DeSantis, including former Republican Representative David Jolly and the former high school math teacher who will also be running. I think the math teacher is Dodie Joseph. Dana Marie Foster, and she's backed by the Democratic Progressive Caucus. So that's what to look for at the top of the ticket here in the state of Florida during these midterm elections. But a lot of eyes right there on St. Petersburg's mayor's race as well. There's going to be a lot of talk about what's going on in St. Petersburg, especially some of the economic issues. Florida Democrats have faced a drought statewide in elections in this state, and particularly for governor. Democrat last won the governorship more than 30 years ago. And despite what is happening, especially what we've seen health-wise in terms of public health in this state, it's going to be interesting to see just how competitive the elections will be for governor, but also for the other offices down ticket, the U.S. Senate race, Ashley Moody is facing nominal opposition from the party, and Ashley Moody was state attorney general in January 2025 when the governor appointed her to fill Rubio's vacant U.S. seat. She's now running to complete the final 2 years of Rubio's term. Her Democratic opponent in November will be either Angie Nixon or retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman. Vindman, a former National Security Council staff member, was a key witness in the POTUS's first impeachment in 2019, and his brother Eugene was elected to Congress from Virginia's 7th District in 2024. Nixon, along with Joseph in the race for governor, was among a group of black state lawmakers who led unsuccessful Democratic efforts to block Republican redistricting plans back in 2022 and again this year in 2026. The new congressional boundaries Republicans enacted in May essentially eliminated 4 congressional districts currently are most recently represented by Democrats. And Democratic U.S. Representative Kathy Castor in the 14th district around Tampa and Darren Soto in the 9th district near Orlando are both running for re-election in their new Republican-friendly districts and will face the winners of the crowded Republican primary challenge. So it's going to be, that's what the race is shaping up like here in Florida. Another South Florida district, there's Sheila McCormick is mounting a comeback bid after resigning from the 20th district in April. She'll face Debbie Wasserman Schultz in a Democratic primary in the new 20th, which is no longer a majority black district. Even though that was a majority black district, that was a lot of debate raised around the Democrats in these districts being, in terms of representation, Debbie Wasserman Schultz apparently sparks a debate over what representation means in diverse districts. We know that, she's running for re-election in her new district, as I just said, and this change has led Schultz to run in a heavily Democratic area that has historically elected black Democrats, and the redistricting follows a Supreme Court decision affecting minority voting strength. Wasserman Schultz is a former National Party chair who's white, and she faces criticism for running in this district, but argues her experience makes her a strong advocate. Her main opponent is former Congressman Sheila McCormick, who is black and is running despite facing legal challenges herself. The race highlights ongoing debates about representation and minority voting rights. But the Democrats have also made another decision that will speak to that. The new presidential calendar that's going to be used in 2028 gives black and Latino voters and union members an early say instead of Iowa being the first in the nation. That's going to move to South Carolina, I do believe. They're seeking the party's presidential nomination. If you're seeking Democratic Party's presidential nomination in 2020, you need to prove yourself early on in states where black and Latino voters and union members are key supporters. An election year calendar approved over the weekend makes South Carolina's primary the first, and that will be followed by Nevada, and then New Hampshire, then New Mexico, then Michigan, and Virginia will round out the early states throughout February of 2028. So that's going to increase the impact that black voters and union voters and Latino voters have on who's going to be the nominee for the Democrats in 2028. So that's one change that the party is responding to, all of this change that has been happening, and this debate that has been unleashed, especially in Wasserman Schultz district. So one can understand, what it is, what it means when the Supreme Court weakened the Voting Rights Act. It has caused all of this mess, and so people are having to respond because at the end of the day, it was really all about a POTUS who just wants to remain protected in office despite all of his crimes and all of the things that he's done that make the situation worse, not just in this country, but on the globe. Prices are worse. Public health is worse. The fact that, poor people around the country, around the world, not just the country, but around the world, are suffering even greater because the role that U.S. aid once played is no longer there, while the rich continue to get support regardless of what they've done and what crimes they've engaged in and how much they've weakened, especially the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, has done to weaken this country's economy and finances under the guise of you're saving money. You're weakening the United States. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. Don't call Marcel, but call to the station if you want to join in a discussion about what to expect in the midterms, but all of the issues surrounding these elections and what is happening in this country and on the globe and what has been done to weaken voters. And we need to respond to all that is happening in real time. Things are continuing to happen in real time. We heard last week, and when it comes to issues of public health, there's so much to respond to in this election that we have to keep track of what's going on. Last week, we saw that this POTUS has changed its recommendations on how often to vaccinate your children. And during the pandemic, people were upset about, people who were anti-vax were upset about needles and putting things in your nose. And now here you have recommendation from a POTUS that says you want your children to be taken to get more shots and spread your shots out. But doctors worry that this president's new executive order on vaccines will stoke fear and confusion among parents at a time when measles is raging. Immunization rates are falling and children are heading back to school during this process. And the order advocates separating measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine into 3 different single disease shots and giving all childhood immunization at separate appointment times when possible. It also includes several changes to the childhood vaccine schedule already attempted by this POTUS's health department, which have been blocked by a federal judge. And doctors say that recommendations are not based on science, and they worry they will worsen vaccine hesitancy and endanger kids. So here's another policy where the party that claims to care about kids really cares not at all. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. I'm your host for this public affairs program called Community Speaks, and it's important that we put things in perspective as they are happening. We were talking about the midterm elections, and especially when it comes to the schools and how that is played out and how the culture wars have played out and what that has wrought in reality in this country. And the U.S. military-based schools putting an emphasis on Western civilization and Christianity, further miseducating people. But we also, have to act on the globe. We act globally oftentimes, and when there's so much incompetence in power, we have to be cognizant of what is happening in our names on the globe. And I put the question out there, what is the reason why Israel has done little to rein in settler violence? And there are analysts who say it's not just President Netanyahu. There's been lots of standoffs in the occupied West Bank, and it points to Israel's reluctance to rein in settler violence against Palestinians. And many of Israel's political leaders have criticized the violence, but most support the larger settlement enterprise aimed at cementing control over the West Bank and preventing the establishment of a Palestinian state. And Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu leads the most settler-friendly government in Israel's history, and it has eased military restrictions on those settlers. But the settlements considered illegal by much of the international community have grown under all of his predecessors. Why? And what we're saying is these people feel emboldened to be more violent against Palestinians. The United States, which provides billions of dollars in military aid to Israel, has issued a scathing rebuke, perhaps because of one of the homeowners is a Palestinian American living in Ohio. U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee referred to the settlers as, quote, terrorists. Israel's defense minister dismissed them as radical misfits. Boils on the heels is what the defense minister calls them. But in reality, they are the tip of the spear for a much larger movement supported by successive Israeli governments and supercharged under this Prime Minister Netanyahu, which is aimed at cementing Israeli rule over the territory and preventing the establishment of a Palestinian state. Over the settlement built over decades now house over 500,000. Israel captured the West Bank along with Gaza and East Jerusalem in 1967, that Mideast war, and the territories the Palestinians want for a future state. And since then, the Israeli government has built nearly 150 settlements that are home to well over 500,000 Jewish settlers. And many of the settlements resemble fully developed suburbs with apartment blocks, shopping malls, parks, and industrial areas. And there's a story right now of a family being held under siege, and nobody is doing anything about it. And so, and there are people who say that many members of the military, the Israeli military, are themselves settlers. And so what to do? There's a pressure coming from the United States. It's had very little impact. And that pressure is somewhat easing under this POTUS, as he does not know exactly what he's doing or what to do to push for peace and real settlement in that region. 813-239-9663. We're about halfway through, and just trying to cover a lot of what is happening and connect the dots in terms of what is happening in this country, what is happening potentially with the midterm elections, and how that is going to impact policy on the globe. And there's a lot of eyes watching what is happening. Not the least of which is what is happening in the criminal justice system inside this country. As I said, a lot of Hillsborough children are being moved from the juvenile detention center further away from their families and further away from representation, legal representation. That's not a good thing. Again, not caring about what is happening to children. That's a process that we have to reverse in this state. But also, we're seeing the national soap opera play out around the Nolan Wells death in Mississippi. And historically, Mississippi has not been good at bringing justice to bear. While the world is watching, Nolan Wells was apparently killed on July 4th of this year. He drowned, rather. We still waiting on the outcome of that investigation, but NAACP's Office of General Counsel has announced that it will join the legal team investigating his death. Apparently, the family still has the telephone, which is going to be a very important key, and they want to make they need some kind of reassurance from the state and the feds, because even a federal investigation is not really under this POTUS. This Justice Department is not a safe bet anymore in terms of getting justice for a black victim. Too often the deaths of young black people are dismissed or downplayed or inadequately investigated unless we demand answers. And we've got some of the best. We got Benjamin Crump, the civil rights lawyer, on the team. And we're going to continue to see how family works for justice. In that case, the family, Christine and Elmore Wansley, his parents, said the foul play decision was made too soon because the state autopsy claimed the results are sealed, but they suspect foul play. Did not have reason to suspect foul play at the time an investigation is still ongoing a month later. And the state autopsy results will continue to be sealed until the case is presented to a grand jury. And we're going to keep an eye on that as a nation. We're going to keep watch on what's happening in my former home state of Mississippi, and because we know what the history has wrought, but that's the case throughout the South. What we have learned here in Florida, we have a governor that is on the tear at executing as many people as possible, but we're also a state where we lead the nation in exonerations. So we have to be very careful as we continue to move forward. And also on the criminal justice side, we're watching the case of Kevin D. This is the guy who's been put on trial right now in the murder of Tupac Shakur. This has been an interesting case, as we know that the police who worked for Death Row Records for a while, these were police officers, and two of them have been implicated in what has happened with the murder of Tupac. Even some of the head of security is not talking, even though he's done just as much talking as Kevin D. But it seems like the head of security and the police officers have been trying to get Kevin D. to take the fall for all of this. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that trial, and that there's a connection between what's happened in the Tupac murder as well as the Christopher Wallace murder, also known as Biggie Smalls. And there's a connection between the two, as police officers were moonlighting, working while those murders were going on. And what is interesting about it is that one of the officers, Russell Poole, who was trying to work the case, both cases, and connect the dots, he was fired. So why was he fired? He wrote a book about it. There's been some documentaries about it. Even Benjamin Crump has gamed out all of the possible scenarios, in particular when it comes to the Tupac murder, to find out what could possibly have happened there. But for as long as this has been over 30 years, it's been about 30 years since Tupac was killed, and the police won't talk about a case that is still open. So it's convenient, for as long as the case is open, the police doesn't have to talk. And so maybe that's the reason why it has been kept open for so long, so that those dots can never be connected, and the fall guy will finally go down for while everybody else gets away with it. So we're going to keep an eye on just what happens in that trial. It's important that we keep and watch, because all of these things, even though these murder trials, these are also political in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to justice. Getting justice for black people in the United States is still an issue. And there's always this need to weaken and what happens, and weaken our right to justice, is including our right to vote. And so it's important that we watch the history continue to repeat itself, and step in and demand justice, and make it more difficult if they're going to continue to carry out these injustices, that they're going to have to do it in front of everybody. 813-239-9663. I'm your host, Patrick Mobili, for this public affairs program called Community Speaks. And, it might sound like, there are a lot of issues, but that doesn't mean we can't be on top of it and we aren't still in control. At the end of the day, we have to make certain that those who are in power hear us. 813-239-9663. I'm hoping that I can get you on the telephone. It looks like some of you are calling. We'll get to the telephones as soon as I possibly can. But also you can write DJ at WMNF.org. And what are you watching for in the elections? And what are you watching for in terms of justice inside the country and on the globe. 813-239-9663. That's the number to call. I want to hear from you. This is Community Speaks, my opportunity to speak with you. We're also watching, as you know, we have to put these things in perspective. We know that today is the day that back during the Korean War in 1950, that was a massacre of U.S. soldiers. But because South Korea, which has been an ally of the United States since then, didn't support the United States in its war on Iran, this POTUS is no longer wants to do its military drills in the face of North Korea's attempts at testing nuclear weaponry. And so you're going to undo all of that, especially on this day of all days, to announce you're going to undo your drills, your military drills alongside an ally. You're saying to an ally, you no longer want to be allies because you're mad. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. If you want to join me in discussion, you can also write DJ at WMNF.org. You know, we have to always fight for justice in this country, especially if you're Black and Latino, but also if you don't fit into the white heterosexual Christian dynamic in this country, you're going to have to continue to fight for your rights or be the subject of their culture wars. And so as such, we got to take a slight break and let's listen to the alternative national anthem as performed by Jill Scott at the 2023 Essence Festival, because it speaks volumes. Keep it tuned. This is Community Speaks.
Oh, say, can you see by the blood in the streets that this place doesn't smile on you, colored child, whose blood built this land with sweat and their hands, but you'll die in this place, and your memory erased. Oh, say, does this truth hold any weight? This is not the land of the free, but the home of the slave.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the home of the free. It feels like it's continuing to be the home of the slave. Jill Scott really told it all right there. 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. I want to talk with you, as usual, here on a Monday to get the week started as we are facing... We're finally at the midterm, especially at the primaries of the midterm. And we have a lot of people who are raising the alarm over how this POTUS may seek to interfere with or challenge the result of November's midterm. At stake is not only whether Republicans maintain their grip on the Congress, but also the control of state legislatures across the country. Democratic gains at either the state or national levels could provide a new check on POTUS, who has sought to significantly expand executive power in his second term. State lawmakers have introduced new legislation this year with the aim of protecting polling places this November, and behind closed doors, Democratic attorneys general have local elections, along with local election officials, have sought to anticipate and prepare for ways the federal government could interject itself into local elections. In recent months, Democratic attorney generals have been meeting to prepare for worst-case scenarios, including the possibility of federal immigration officers patrolling polling places or the FBI visiting county election offices. That could all have a devastating effect on voters' perceptions at the polls, especially here in this state after we saw how police were sent to people's homes by this governor and his special police, trying to intimidate people who registered to vote, who were ex-cons, even though that was an amendment that the people passed that said, if you've done your time, you can get your voting rights back. The governor interjected, you have to pay these actual fines in order to get your voting rights back. That's not at all what the law said that the people passed. 813-239-9663. Why do these Republicans work so hard to make it harder for people to vote? It hasn't got anything to do with people who are non-citizens. This is all about going after the rights of citizens. 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. I want to hear from you, so let's go to the telephone lines to Riverview, see what Jeremy has to offer. Jeremy, you say what? Thank you for calling Community Speaks.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. You?
Listen, I'm a little disappointed in that version that you just played of the national anthem. I mean, to me, that just seemed to be totally disgraceful to mock our national anthem like that. And
that wasn't a mockery.
It's wrong.
It was serious.
But anyway, and then you had made a comment. I listen to your show every week, but you made a comment about we're not free. If people in this country don't think they're free, you have the right to move somewhere and go. You don't have to stay here. I just get so disappointed in how people feel about this country and mock it constantly. So I just wanted to say my piece. I'm not going to harp on it, but I am going to stop listening to your show. I appreciate it.
Well, that's your right, Jeremy. Thank you so much. I was glad to hear from you today. You know, it's so easy to be upset at when people you don't agree with politically mock this country, but you have a POTUS that did nothing but mock this country. That's all he did, but mock this country. If you're not upset by the POTUS, you shouldn't be upset by Jill Scott. 813-239-9663. I just want to hear from you. 813-239-9663. When you have a country that is putting more people in prison for especially nonviolent crimes, you have longer sentences. You have people being executed who, in a state like this where exonerations, where we lead exonerations, you had that going on in many states, even famously in Illinois, a lot of exonerations, but you're still locking scores and scores of people up. A lot of it is economic lockups, where just because people couldn't afford themselves an attorney or another kind of justice, you have a country that is locking up more people than even the former apartheid South Africa. So, and you're trying to lock people out of citizenship. You're trying to lock people out of voting. You're trying to lock people out of the economy. And no, it feels like we're not free in this country, especially given how fascistic this Red Party is engaging in these culture wars across the country, further increasing potentials for violence in this country. We've seen nothing but more violence in this country. It doesn't feel free, and leaving is not a choice. If anybody should have left, all of that hatred we were hearing from the podium, the POTUS should have left before he got elected. So if anybody should leave, those people who have been hating the progress this country has been making. So that's just my piece. I just wanted to make certain I got all of that out to you. But thank you for your call. Anyway, Jeremy, want to hear from you. You don't have to stop listening, but that's well within your right. So we'll go to Julie and see what Julie has to say. Thank you for calling. Julie, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Mulberry, Florida, and, I smile because my name is Castleberry. I'm a Poco Loco poet warrior living in Mulberry.
Okay.
Where's the smile in that? I say smile. Simple motion invites love, essence. We have all of these little boys, spoiled brats, dare I say, out loud that are playing with my life. And I'm a worker bee, beautiful energy, essence, sacred. There's other bees like me. I hear them. I feel them with the DJs presenting love into the airwaves. And we're rolling, baby, rock solid in love. Not extinguished by reality TV, introduced for profit. Profit is not gain. Go, actually, inspire now. It's new opportunities, wonder-filled. That's my inspire touch, true opulence, unity, creative, happy, hope, actual, positive people. You. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love that.
Essence sacred. Yes. Conversations with God. Neil Diamond watch God's word for the day. Yippee! You inspire positive people.
Yeah.
Sacred is what we need, not greed. Go rape everyone, everything, demand, teach, take. He's done his job. This administration and all the icky, ugly, stroking meat, because there is no courage. Meow, I'm a cat, baby.
Right.
Fuck my
Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Appreciate your call. Always exciting. Russell from Tampa. Thank you for calling Community Speaks. You say what?
Well, that was a disgusting sign-off from whoever that lunatic was.
What you say?
Hey, Mabili, listen, let me get to my question. Got two questions. Is the name of this show Community Speaks or Moderate Lectures?
Community Speaks.
Okay. Then why don't you just kind of open up the mic at 12:01 instead of, reading a printout of left-wing talking.
Those are my points. I'm not reading anybody's no lefties point. Those are my points. Thank you, Russell. Why don't you go get your own show? How about that? 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. Looks like one of the tech bros have shut down the computer, so I cannot see who is calling anymore. Now, I know there are a lot of callers on the phone right now. If you could just bear with me just for a few minutes. We'll see if we can get the phones back up, but at the moment I cannot see who's calling. You can write me DJ DJ@WMNF.org, but you can call 813-239-9663, and for some reason everything just went dead. I cannot see what is going on. But I do appreciate those of you who have called pro and con. We got to continue. We got to see if we can continue this call. But just for your information, I'm not reading some left-wing diatribe. But you guys will continue to enjoy your right-wing diatribes. It seems like they don't get that kind of pushback as we do. But we're going to see what Margaret has to say in Tampa. Margaret, thank you for calling. You say what?
Hi. Yes, I want to say to Jeremy and whoever else it concerns, Jill Scott did a good job on bringing out what the Star Spangled Banner. See, most people don't go and read the third degrading verse.
Oh, yeah.
Of that. And it was written by Francis Scott Key. He was a slave owner. So I asked Jeremy and the rest of them, read the third verse of the Star Spangled Banner and see how they're degrading slaves.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that, Margaret. Thank you so much. And that's your homework, people. Jeremy, go do that. 813-239-9663. Let's go to Sebring and see what Pat has to offer. Thank you for calling Community Speaks.
Hey, how exciting. This has been one exciting show.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, I learned so much from what you say at the beginning of the show. And it's not a diatribe, it's truth. And I think that guy needs to, figure it out, because this is a very, very important show.
Thank you.
And I live in Sebring, Florida, of all places, so I know what it's like to be under a red curtain.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I thank you so much for what you do. Right. And you have a great day.
Thank you.
Keep doing it.
I will. Thank you, Pat. I will do that. Keep listening from Sebring. 813-239-9663. Got a few more minutes before we have to get on out and make room for getting back to the music with It's the Music Monday. But first, we're going to, of course, get another news update from The Scoop. But right now, I'm talking to you. Let's go to St. Pete and speak with Jeff. Thank you for calling Community Speaks, Jeff. You say what?
Hey, now.
Hey.
First off, poor Jeremy. He doesn't realize this is in an airport. He doesn't have to announce his departure, but, so be it. And to Russell, for someone who hates what you do, he sure is hanging on every word you got now, isn't he? And, I couldn't agree with you more. I appreciate everything you do, and you just keep on doing it. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Listen every day.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. 813-239-9663. I was interested in knowing how you felt about the mayoral race. There is a interesting race going on there for mayor of St. Petersburg, Florida. But maybe we could talk about that in the coming weeks, or maybe after it's all over and done with, and we'll see who actually takes the win. But right now, we're just putting as much into perspective as possible. And, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of troubles with our history. We've had to put up with a lot in this country's history, and we see so many people trying to repeat that history, trying to take us backwards. And what they're hearing is pushback against those efforts to take us backwards, and they hate our pushback. It's all I could say. 813-239-9663. I want to speak with you in the last few minutes, so we'll go to Brooksville and see what Tina has to say. Thank you for calling Community Speaks, Tina. You say what?
Oh, well, I sent you a quick email, but you got me on the phone first. I was just going to say we're with you 100% on all that about the national anthem and all that stuff. And my email said, since I could say my first words and I honor my American parents for this, the generally accepted national anthem bothered me because it glorifies war. Now we know it's even worse.
Yeah.
It sucks, and it's not what I feel about as a USA citizen. Not my president, not my national anthem, thanks. And thank you for this amazing show. God, love you, Pedro.
Thank you. Thank you. Love that call.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. And, and so, we talk about freedom. You don't feel free. I wasn't even free. Colin Kaepernick wasn't free to take a knee during the national anthem in its current form, not the alternative national anthem. So, you guys can't even stand somebody taking a knee I mean, give me a break on that. This is a problem. 813-239-9663. I see that you've written a lot of emails. I really wish I could share them. Got about 5 minutes left. Hopefully, I can get to some of your emails. A lot of people coming out in support of the alternative national anthem, and so. And I think that, anytime you have truth being told, whether it's in song or in prose, we should celebrate that. And that's what we do. And we know, as the last caller said, if you're going to celebrate war, that's what that national anthem does. You celebrate slavery. But the alternative says the truth and how a lot of people feel about the current state of affairs in this country, not this whitewashed version that they constantly trying to push on your children, on your military schools, and now we are pushing back. 813-239-9663. Let's go to Bay City. Eve, you say what?
Hey, DJ.
Hi.
I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for giving our community such an amazing platform and not, like you said, whitewashing the experience. I can't agree more, and I thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy you're listening and that you called today. And we're going to continue to do that. So thank you, Eve from Bay City. That's my time. I'm going to go ahead and get on out and make room for getting back to the music. But, it is important that we continue to talk about these issues. And a lot of people are responding. It's too bad these, what one emailer is called a Trump tard, didn't leave America when Biden was president, because they certainly went off on him over and over again for everything he did and said. He even made up stuff. Wanted to have Ukraine announce an investigation that wasn't even real, just to hurt Biden. So give me a break on that. Does Jeremy know that if you're a U.S. citizen, you still have to pay U.S. taxes no matter where you go? Maybe he doesn't know that. But thank you to the emailer for reminding us. Thank you, Ellie. That's part of your email. There's so many good emails that came through responding to Jeremy. He said, thank goodness Jeremy won't be wasting any more airtime calling in and saying nothing except that he's a closed-minded, intolerant, brainwashed. Well, he said he won't be listening anymore, but hopefully he still learned something. He learned that there's an alternative to the whitewashing that has gone on in this country. So let's not be too hard on Jeremy. He just gave his opinion, but we're going to continue to have ours, and I'm going to continue to have mine. I'm going to continue to come in and put together the program that you want to hear, the truth that you want to hear. That's my whole idea and plan for moving forward as we go forward in overtime. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and get on out and make room for getting back to the music. I can continue to talk to you guys all day, but of course I can't do that. But we'll be back next week to have more conversation and more opportunity to put it all in perspective and to make us all aware and able to push back, fight back, because that's what we have to do. We can't just be like them and be reactionaries. We have to fight back. So we're going to continue to do that. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and make room for getting back to the music. It's the Music Monday comes your way next. This has been Community Speaks. I'm your host, Patro Mobili, signing off. We'll see you next week. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for your emails. Thank you for tuning in. WMNF Tampa.
WMNF, speaking truth to power since 1979.
This is The Scoop for Monday.
I'm Sean Kinane with the WMNF News headlines. Primary elections in Florida are tomorrow. It will be the last day to vote. WMNF's Julia Saad spoke to voters at some Hillsborough County early voting sites.
As polling sites get ready for Election Day, Florida voters consider who will best represent their state, counties, and courts. Lisa Hamilton says she would like to see younger people in office.
Change what's been going on, without